Howdy, y'all. You got the Bulldog on the channel. Uh, we're here late in the evening again. And today it went from having to run the air conditioner this afternoon to, most people are going to turn on the furnaces tonight. That's just, part of living in the state of misery. What I've got here, this one, I think has been on the channel a couple times, and it's had an ongoing problem. And I keep fixing things that are broke, and it doesn't fix the complaint. First off, gas gauge quit, and it went to running horrible when it did. Put it off, because he was using it every day. Couldn't let go of it. Well, it got to where it wouldn't start. And I had checked the fuel pressure on it a couple, 3 times. I checked the fuel pressure on it again, and the fuel pressure did not come up where it needed to. These Vortec 350s, this is an OBS Chevy. These Vortec 350s, they have to build a certain amount of fuel pressure before they will start. And it's high, way high. It doesn't make sense, but it has to be like 55 pounds or 60 pounds. Because what it has is it's got a center pack injector system. There's all the injectors are sitting right there. And then coming out to every cylinder, inside the intake manifold is little spiders. They call it spider. There's 8 of them. At the end of every one of those spiders is a little pop-off valve. And it has to build a certain amount of pressure to pop that valve, kind of like a diesel injector. So, if it don't have the correct amount of fuel pressure, it won't start. Usually, once they get started, they'll run on lower pressure. I don't know. They just do. But when they're cranking, they won't. I checked it. It was low. Okay. Fuel pump. Well, first, before everything, it was the fuel pressure regulator. It was leaking like a sieve. It washed one side of the engine clean. And I could sit there and watch it dripping in the intake. I put that on there, solved that problem. And it went 2-3 months, and then had that same problem again, only this time it wasn't the fuel pressure regulator, it was the fuel pump actually bad. And, well, okay, that makes sense. The fuel gauge quit, and that's inside the tank. Put the pump in. No, gauge still didn't work, but it started, Developed a dying problem shortly thereafter. And I thought, well, I didn't change the plug-in on top of the fuel tank because somebody else had already put this pump in there and changed it over to the new style of plug-in. I can't find the old one that was laying on my workbench somewhere in this mess in my way. It disappeared. It threw itself away here. But here's a new one. They come with a pump, usually, hopefully. That's why I have a new one sitting here. If I find one that's already been changed, I leave it. Well, I decided they probably used the provided crimp connectors to put it on there, and it got loose, and it's got a loose connection. I moved it around, and now I have caused the dying problem, and the gas gauge still don't work because that's what's wrong with it. I got it in. I took the plug in that was provided. I fished it out from on top of the tank. I soldered it on, put it all back together. Still don't work. Crap. Well, got to book it in sometime. Well, he had one day that he didn't need the truck. Forgot to leave the keys. Shoot. Well, okay. The next night, I got it out here, and I did find the problem. I hooked my computer up to it, and it has a place in there where you can turn on the fuel gauge. It wouldn't respond. He was saying that sometimes it'd jump over and do crazy things. Well, I wanted to know, is it the gauge, or is it the wiring? One of the two. Well, actually it goes through the ECM. Uh-oh. Well, what I did since I can't be in two places at once, checking wiring, checking this bulkhead connector, and be inside looking at the thing, I took my phone, put it in selfie mode, and propped it up here on the dash, on the steering wheel, and I could look there and see my phone and see the gas gauge down there, and I went to wiggling on wires in here, and my golly, see here, that harness right there, the great big harness that's deep down in there, you can't see it because it's focusing on other things, that down there on the bottom, clear against the fender well. When I moved that, the gas gauge would wiggle. And sometimes it'd go over to full. Sometimes it'd be empty. Sometimes it'd go clear past full. That means it's shorted out. Empty means it's open. The fuel tank was full. So I knew, well, I've got a wiring issue right here. I wiggled all around on wires at the bulkhead connector. It didn't make any difference. I wiggled around on wires at the computer. It didn't make any difference. Thumped on the computer. Didn't make any difference. Wiggled this wire here. Didn't make any difference. Wiggled these wires over here. Didn't make any difference. I lifted this thing up and it immediately jumped the fuel gauge. It's like, okay. So I tried to recreate by moving it again, and it did not correspond. I wiggled it again. Did not correspond. I picked up on the wiring harness. Truck died. Well, I guess I found that problem too. Fire truck back up. Wiggle, gas gauge. Wiggle, wiggle. Truck stumbles. Almost dies. All right. Confirmed, it is right there. Now, getting down in there is a nightmare, but it's right against the fender well. So I'm going to pick it up, pull this wheel off, pull that inner fender well out, and I should be able to be right there and get to it. The other issue it had is the blower fan did not work on high. Well, I went over there, opened up the glove box, got in behind the glove box, and found the high-speed blower fan relay. It had no power on it. Fuse is good. Gets its power from out here, this fuse box. And it goes through that junction down there, over to the bulkhead connector, and then over to the other side of the dash. So, I'll bet you all of our problems are right there. All of them. I'm going to get into this thing and go to working on it, and hopefully, cross our fingers, I find a crap ton of bare, torn up wires that I can fix and put it back on the road tonight. Maybe it's tomorrow morning. Early. Oh, hopefully it's tonight. I don't know. We'll see. Wish me, I'll get back to you whenever I get this thing up in the air and find the issues. All right. Things have escalated. I've found problems. I have no clue if it has anything to do with the fuel gauge or the blower fan not working, but it definitely has a running problem. When I was over here, as you notice, this corner is looking a little bit bare now. As I was over here, I was looking up through this area, and I saw right there on the EGR tube the way that looks. From the underneath side, I could see the engine wiring harness sitting on top of it. So what that means is that it melted. I mean, it melted a hole in the plastic casing. I've had the upper intake off of it, but I have not had the lower intake. I did kind of notice that that bracket was missing whenever I did that. I didn't think much of it because I've never seen this happen. This kind of explains why he's been having a problem. And then a little while later, another problem. And then a little while later, another problem. It just keeps getting worse. Well, that wiring harness was sitting on top of that exhaust pipe. And here's what I've found so far. And I got this wiring harness laid out. From there, I had to take the master cylinder loose so that I could get it up between there. Went underneath the AC hose, and laid it out right here on the fender. Do not put it past an engineer to screw over a mechanic for whatever reason. I cannot fathom why the fuel gauge wiring would be going over into the engine harness. Maybe there's a reason. For the life of me, I can't figure it out. But it was having problems shifting. It was having dying problems. This harness on the other side, right there, it goes down, and that's the transmission wiring harness. So I'll bet this problem here is the problem of it shifting funny. That's a new one. That didn't start until I jacked with the wiring over here looking for the gas gauge problem. And it died, or tried to die. Well, people say they're up to their neck. We can't control the problems that it has. We just have to keep looking until we find them. If we find them. I'm digging deep on this one. Can you say story of my life? Fuel gauge wire. Fuel gauge wire. No problem between the computer and the bulkhead connector. As you can see, we've got continuity, and I've wiggled it all over the place, and I have not found anything. I can't pull it and make it quit, nothing. Even though I would wiggle the wiring here, right here, and the fuel gauge would work, and it'd quit. Purple wire over there that's torn up, that has seemingly nothing to do with the fuel gauge. It is something to do with the ABS, because it is a connector in this plug right here that goes into the Kelsey Hayes ABS controller over there. Well, I don't know. I'm going to fix these wires, armor it all up. That goes over the top of the engine. I'll put everything back in place. I'll inspect really good right here. I just don't see anything. I don't know. I could not command the computer to raise the fuel gauge. So, flying blind again. I'll fix these problems. No clue if that has anything to do with the running problem or not. One would think, but one would have thought that where I messed with it, there would have been a problem. But no. I don't want you spoiled, Buck. Okay, we got those wires fixed now. Got these all soldered up and taken care of. I put little pieces in there because of the pieces that were junk. I fixed 4 wires in total. 2 of them were completely into. 2 of them were, kind of bad. Well, choke that one up to I don't freaking know. I had it all apart. I could not find a single issue with the gas gauge. The wire goes directly from the computer to the bulkhead connector. No problem. I fixed a bunch of wires going over to the right. One of them is the blower fan, which doesn't work. And it still don't work. But we'll see. Shut up. Okay. We're going to see how it shifts and everything and go from there. I'll get back to you. Okay, we're back. I did not like the shift points on it, but at least it shifts into the high gears. Maybe it has to relearn. I don't know. It's kind of the way things are. You fixed one thing, you find more problems. So we're gonna call it good for now. We're gonna call it good for now. At least it runs and drives, got a gas gauge. I can't explain that. Maybe I moved something around and it made contact. I don't know. Maybe there's something wrong in the bulkhead connector. I don't know. Everything looks shiny. Everything was making good contact. The pin that it was actually the right one wasn't pushed back. I'll talk to the customer tomorrow after he uses a little bit, and we'll see if the shift points adjust themselves. I had the battery unhooked. I had the computer unhooked. I probably should have hooked up my computer and reset all the adaptives, but I didn't. I figure, well, the computer was unhooked. It should have reset itself. Sometimes they don't. I don't know. We'll find out. It does shift into the high gear, so we'll call that good. That's just, that's just the story of my life. Fix one problem, find another. Fix that problem, find another. Fix that problem, come up with another. So, like, comment, subscribe, hit your little bell notification, share it all around. We'll talk to you later.